Hello, good evening, welcome, happy Monday to you. How is everyone? Hope you are well, and yeah, I hope you had a good day today. We've had a little bit of crazy weather in London. I think this is probably the worst May on average, and but I'm hoping we'll bring some sunshine tonight. So, last couple of weeks ago, we had Adna joining us, and if you didn't catch the live, Adna was talking about her passion for acting, and she's going to be going back into her to teach acting again, which is wonderful. Little bit of normality again resumes, and we were talking about how to be yourself and someone else. And you realise how kind of restricted we've been over the last year, and how acting can just really help bring out confidence and just different sort of aspects of our personality. So I want to sign up to an acting class now, so I was really inspired. But anyway, tonight I am delighted to welcome special guest Lina Ramchand, who will be joining us very shortly. When I started doing these lives, Lina was one of the first people that I was really keen to bring on, as I've known Lina probably for about 17 years, and I'd say actually she was probably one of the people that really inspired my well-being journey, and I've learned so much from her over the years. And yeah, I've had reflexology, Indian head massage, energy healing from Lina. We've had so many inspiring conversations over the years, and I'm delighted that she wrote this book, Reflections, which I know she'll be probably mentioning tonight, but such a little gem that was during lockdown. I have to say, it really came at the right time. And also during lockdown, I've been doing her Yoga Nidra class. And if you haven't come across Yoga Nidra, it's a lying down meditation. And that again was like a little sort of oasis in a storm. So I absolutely love going to that class. But I'm sure Lina will mention all of these wonderful things that she does. And so Lina is a holistic health practitioner, and as I said before, has an extensive wealth of knowledge around well-being. Tonight, our topic though is the power of thought. And I know over recent weeks or even the last year, just you realise kind of the thoughts that you have and what you're kind of attracting. And even last week, I mentioned this to Lina, that I started to read the newspapers more and listening to media, and it was really impacted me. So I'm really keen to explore how powerful thoughts are and get her sort of views on that. So let's bring Lina on. You'll be kind to us, but no problems yet. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Hello. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. Finally managed to connect without any problems.
Wonderful. Hooray. Technology is kind to us tonight.
Yes.
Well, thank you for joining.
Sorry, did I interrupt? You were in the middle of saying something and then you just got cut off. Was I responsible for that?
Okay, this often happens, so don't worry about it. But no, I was just saying how long I've known you for, and what kind of impact you've had on my life. So I'm really happy that you're able to come on tonight and share some of your words of wisdom with us.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh no, it's great to have you.
I shall enjoy chatting with you. Where do you want me to start first?
Oh well. Well, I think because our theme is a power of thought, isn't it? So so I just wanted to find out kind of why are thoughts so powerful. So I thought, well, should we start
Well,
there?
this morning, I wasn't expecting to start this way, but this morning I picked up one of my thought books, and I just opened it up to one page at random, and you won't believe what I got. So I think this is a good way to start. Because when I opened up the book, this is what I got. It is a saying by Buddha, and it goes, "What we are today comes from our thoughts of yesterday, and our present thoughts build our life of tomorrow. So our life is the creation of our mind."
Okay. Oh, that's
Wow.
very
So I thought it was
powerful.
quite apt, confirming that this is the topic we should really be discussing today as well.
Mm, mm.
Um, and well, okay, now in my words, why thoughts are powerful.
Exactly. We want to hear from you. We heard from Buddha now.
Well, in my words, is because our thoughts are actually very much intertwined with our emotions
Mm,
and our actions, and they can also trigger off, uh, can have an effect basically on our health as well.
mm,
So that's why they're really, powerful, and we need to watch how we think, what we think. Um, and I'm sure you've experienced it yourself that,
mm.
when you think happy thoughts, you feel better,
Yes,
and
definitely.
everything around you seems to also flow better.
Mm,
And when, when you think negative thoughts, it has the reverse effect.
yes, yes.
I think we've all experienced it. And so that also helps to explain why sometimes when we say, when things are going well,
Mm,
when something's going well in our life, a lot of other things tend to also go well.
yes, that's so
And
true.
when something goes wrong in our life,
Mm,
so many other things seem to go wrong, because it's all got to do with our thoughts. Because when something works in our life, we feel really good, we feel really happy about it. So we're also vibrating at a higher frequency. So we
mm,
attract things at that level.
yes, yes, yeah,
And
yeah.
then when we get upset about things, then there are more things around us that keep happening that
Mm.
upset us. So it's basically like attracts like, and it all starts with our thoughts.
Wow. It's so powerful, isn't it? You don't kind of realize that what thoughts are kind of bringing, how it's impacting your life experiences and your health, and because you're almost in it every day, aren't you? When you're having these
Yes,
thoughts, so you don't kind of think, oh, this is really impacting my life. You just think that's your life experience.
yes, yes. Yeah, that's really true. So that's why it's so um, important to try and be mindful of our thoughts,
Yes, yeah, yeah. Being
especially if we want to create a sort of a better life and future for ourselves. Because we human beings find it so easy to think negatively. That
mm,
comes really easy to us.
yeah,
It takes a lot more work to stay positive,
mm,
um, and a lot more effort, even though the results are more favorable
yes, yeah.
and they're more to our liking, you know?
Mm.
So there are many examples. There are many other examples. Let me think of one that people can easily relate to. Anger, for instance.
Yeah.
Um, let's say you have a friend or colleague that you get along quite well with, but there are times that they tend to upset you,
Mm.
and when they upset you, you forget about all the good
Yes.
that they've done. Um,
Yeah.
and then if you keep focusing on all the things they've said and done that upset you, you find that you start acting that way towards them in their presence. And even
Mm.
though um, sometimes you try not to show it, they can they can still sense it.
Yes. Yeah.
And the reason why they can sense it is because every thought and emotion
Mm.
is actually energy, and
Yeah.
energy is
Mm.
something you cannot suppress.
Mm. Yeah. It's
You know,
almost.
you can't hide energy, you can't suppress it.
Mm.
um, so um, And then something like that could ruin a friendship as well.
Mm.
But it just shows you how powerful that thought is.
It's yeah, it's incredible. And like you say, it almost like undoes all, it undoes all, sorry, my English, undoes all the good that you know, that all kind of all the positivity in that relationship. If you've just got that kind of emotion or
Yeah, yeah,
thought around that, it's almost like you can override all the other things. It's almost like how you override, you know, what's happening, or
yeah. And
override.
that's all to do with thoughts. Yes, yeah.
Mm,
Because it wears you down. It fills you with the, the sort of negative emotions,
yeah.
because the thoughts are angry thoughts. So they fill you with those negative emotions. And you subconsciously start acting that way towards the person.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that's it. You start fueling that emotion in a way,
Yeah,
don't you? Just by having
yeah,
that
yeah.
thought. So how can we, I mean, obviously, if we're aware that this is happening, how can we remove ourselves from those negative thoughts? So if I do get that, you know, for example, do get kind of a negative thought about someone or
But the
something.
thing is, you have to have awareness, you have to be mindful of your thoughts. And it all starts with awareness, self-awareness.
Okay.
If you don't have that awareness,
Mm,
you're not going to give it much thought. And you need to have that awareness, because, like I said, we human beings, we find it so easy to think negatively.
mm,
And also, when we are in our thoughts, a lot of times, and a lot of people are always focusing on the past and all the things that went wrong in the past, all the failures, all the regrets. Or when they're looking to the future, it's always full of worry and doubt. All those kind of thoughts come really easy. We don't realize that. I didn't realize that for years. I used to think I was the only one whose thoughts
mm.
used to, flit back and forth from the past to the future.
Yeah.
And I don't know when it happened or what triggered it off, but I suddenly had this realization that this is what I was doing. I
Yeah.
was always focusing on the past or the future. And so I actually made a conscious effort, but it started with awareness.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I made the conscious effort.
Mm,
Uh, so every time my thoughts used to go either way, I would try and bring it into the present. But it took a lot of work,
yeah.
and it took conscious effort. And what I also came to realize was, it was very draining. When your thoughts are always in the past or the future, you know, uh, sort of regretting things that went wrong or worrying about things that haven't happened,
Mm.
it can actually suck a lot of energy out of you.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. And I know I can totally relate to that because I find myself, even without realizing it from time to time, just, you know, going back into the past or, you know, flitting in and worrying about the future. And then it's just having that awareness that you're doing it and that you're
Yeah,
still in your
yeah,
head, that you're just not in the present moment. And however much I
yeah,
go along to your kind of wonderful yoga nidra and you know, have this awareness, it's still really hard to sometimes, you know, yeah, just sort of remember that, not to flip between those
mm,
past and the
mm,
future, because it's very easy, like you say, we're
yeah,
hardwired to be negative, aren't we? You know, so we're attracted to negative things, so it's very hard
yeah.
to flit out of that sometimes.
So that's why you have that's why it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of self-discipline,
Mm,
but it is possible. I'm an example of that, because I hardly ever now, and if and when I do look to the past, I try and focus on all the wonderful things,
yeah,
because this is what I want to bring into the present and future,
yeah, yeah. No,
because your energy flows wherever your thought is.
Very
So
true.
that's how, and whatever you focus on, you give it a lot of life. And so eventually it will manifest.
Okay. Well, you've given me
You know,
hope.
and I've had a lot of people in my work actually, a lot of my clients, they actually have made comments like, you know, um, having like, they'll ask me, why is it that whatever they don't want, they seem to get? So I'd ask them what they focused on. And they'd say they'd focus on the things they didn't want. So I said, well, if you're going to focus on the things you don't want, you're going to get them. You know,
Kind of answered
because
their own
the
question.
body, mind, you know, your body, your brain believes everything you show it and tell it.
Mm, yeah, it's so powerful, isn't it?
Yeah. So I try to remind them to focus on what they want, not what they don't want. Okay, even I've made that mistake in the past, you
Mm,
know.
mm,
Um, but I have that awareness now, and I have experimented with all of this. You know, it's not just what I've read in books, but I myself have practiced it.
yes.
So I mean, I'm okay. There are times when I fail too because I just sometimes don't have the energy to think positively. But
Which
I'm
means
aware I'm doing that. I'm aware I'm doing that. You know, so
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it is about focusing on what we want and what we don't want. That's
yeah,
what
no, you don't focus on what you don't want. You focus on what you want.
you want. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, keep that focus. That's really
Yeah,
important.
yeah, yeah.
So I was keen because obviously I know yoga nidra is something that you practice and you run classes in that, and I know I've been along, and that's been really helpful, particularly during the pandemic. I think just having
Mm.
space every week and really just being aware and so I don't, if anyone hasn't sort of come across yoga nidra, I don't know if you, how, in your sort of experience, how that can help this negative thinking.
Well, yoga nidra and all other types of meditation um, actually does help because it makes you more self-aware. Okay, like the yoga nidra style meditation that I practice, it definitely focuses on self-awareness.
Okay.
You know, at
Mhm.
self-awareness at every level because it guides you through visualizations. It also guides you to work with all your different senses, the sense of smell, the sense of taste, the sense of sound. Uh, it also guides you through your body. So that's a whole package of self awareness. But you'd have to do it regularly, you
Okay.
know,
Mhm.
in order to really feel the benefits. But it's once you have that self awareness,
Yeah.
then you just have um, to be a bit more self disciplined to stay on that positive path,
Mm.
positive thinking path.
Yes. Yeah. No, I know.
Because everything has to do with thought, you know.
Mm.
I mean, okay, when you meditate, when you're having like the yoga nidra meditation is a kind of like guided meditation. So the visualizations and all are positive, and a lot of them, because this particular meditation takes you into like a hypnagogic state, a
Okay.
space between sleep and wakefulness. So your subconscious is taking on board the positive visualizations, and
Mm.
that also has an indirect um, influence on your actions. Like I have a couple of meditators have turned around and said they feel calmer, they feel happier.
Mm.
Um, so it does help you at that level. Maybe it's more subtle, more subconscious,
Mm.
and it also then over time makes you more aware. And
Yeah.
it's the awareness that guides you with your thoughts and actions.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, so it's more about awareness. So the more you practice it, the more aware of your thoughts you become, I guess.
So because you become more self-aware,
Mm,
and that self-awareness also includes the thoughts.
yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's key. I think you've mentioned as
But thoughts
well.
definitely play a big part in all of this.
Mm,
Because even with the healing, it is all intention based. It is based on your thoughts, like
yes.
what you want the healing for.
Mm,
Um,
yeah. Yeah. So it's just about being really clear about what you yeah, what you want. And also I think it's you've reminded me of something as well. It's just actually it's what you're feeding into your mind as well is so important. So even during the yoga nidra, you're giving us this taking us on a taking us to a beach, or you're taking us to a mountain. But you are feeding us positivity. And I think, if I
yeah,
think back to my week last week where I was just a bit kind of obsessed watching the media, what was going to happen about the 21st of June and the Indian variant. And it was almost like last week, I've just found myself feeding myself with so much media and there was something that happened locally that was kind of bad news and just all that one thing after another. It just it's really hard to then think positively if you're just feeding your mind with
yeah, yeah,
all
yeah,
the things that worry you and alarm you. So I think actually, what you've said is just feeding positivity in your mind is so important to the quality of your thoughts.
yes, yeah, yeah.
That's
And I think I mentioned that every thought, every emotion is energy.
yes.
And what's interesting is the Latin word for emotion is actually energy in motion.
Okay, well, that's interesting.
So that's quite an interesting little tidbit.
Oh, because I know one of the things that you've taught me a lot of is around intention. And I know you were saying about with the yoga nidra. So I mean, if I suppose if someone hasn't set intentions before, like I don't know if you putting you on the spot here, really, what would be kind of an example of setting an intention? Would you say, like to help with that kind of positive thought process? Like what kind of intention could
You mean
someone?
an intention you mean to help you stay positive?
Yeah, yeah. So you had mentioned before about setting
Yeah.
intention.
Well, if you wanted to stay positive, you could say something as straightforward as, I am, but you have intentions always should be in the present, as
Oh,
though you're actually in it,
mm,
and not I will be, because that will be may never come along. Because,
mm,
when you take it another step, there's only today. Tomorrow always becomes today. So if you
yeah.
set an intention to the future, it'll never happen.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Yeah.
So the first rule of setting an intention is always saying it in the positive. So you can say, I'm a positive person. Um, um, I'm living my life with positive thoughts.
Mm,
Um,
okay. Yeah.
I'm always thinking positively, or I have self-awareness.
Okay.
So I don't know if that answers your question about intention. But
Yeah.
if you've noticed, like in the yoga nidra style meditation, we do set an intention, right?
Mm,
A purpose for our meditation, which could be short term or long term. In Sekhem healing, which is another modality I practice, we also set an intention at the start of the healing.
mm, yes, that's right.
And and a lot of ailments, the root cause of a lot of ailments,
Yeah.
and especially when you in holistic practices, the root cause is always something mental or emotional,
Oh,
your thought and belief patterns. that's the root cause. So it just shows you how much of an impact, influence thoughts have.
Yeah. And yeah.
And if we suppress certain thoughts and emotions, right, like anger, resentment, jealousy, fear, they
Mm,
settle in different organs of the body.
okay.
So you see, they can affect you physically as well if they're not dealt with or they're not worked through. Like, for example, fear and anxiety
Mm,
can affect the kidneys. Anger can affect the liver. And if you know your thinking is, if you're really inflexible and stubborn, it can, your elbows or your neck or your knees, um, you, you might injure them or,
yes.
in
Yeah.
some way.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's so really, if you do have these kind of thoughts or emotions, it is really to deal with them
Yeah,
rather than
yeah,
suppressing
yeah.
them.
But it shows you how powerful thoughts are, that
Mm,
they can actually affect your health as well.
yes. Yeah.
And and there's so many examples of um, people being told they don't have long to live, and then just go like that. Um, and then there are people whose mind have been stronger than the diagnosis,
Mm,
and they've refused to believe, and they've overcome those illnesses. And forget illnesses, even sort of um, everyday situations. Like, I'll give you an example. I used to, this was many years ago. I think I may have overcome my fear of talking in public, but I think a lot of people have that fear.
yeah.
And I used to
Absolutely.
be so terrified to stand in front of a, it didn't matter what size it was, to just stand up there and give a talk. And I had to give, uh, and it was a group of people I'd never met before, and they wanted to hear about my Sekhem healing. So I had to give a talk on that, and I was like, I was really sort of, I had butterflies in my stomach. I thought,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I can do this, but I
Mm,
said, no, I've got to fight it. And I refuse to allow that fear to get to me. I had like 2 weeks to prepare for it, but
yeah.
I refused to let that fear get to me. Every time I felt the fear, or every time there was a negative thought that started to come in, there's this part of our ego that's always trying to tell us that we're no good, you know,
Mm,
we'll fail. I just refused to listen to that voice. I kept saying to myself,
mm,
no, I can do this. I was visualizing myself, you know, um, being a success at this talk. Um, Everyone sort of sitting back and enjoying it. Um, and it worked. It took a lot of work on my part to stay
mm,
positive,
mm.
to fight those negative thoughts. And it worked. I succeeded. I
Brilliant.
gave a talk. I actually was able to stand up there and give the talk with confidence.
Wow.
And at the end of it, um, the feedback was also very positive
Brilliant. Well
because
done.
I kept visualizing myself at the same
Mm,
time, you know. Um, so um, um, visualization is basically thoughts in picture form.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's very true. Yeah. So just having that
So
image in front of you,
yeah, yeah. But
and
it's not. It's hard work. It's hard work, because you have
mm,
to keep fighting the thoughts. But the more you do it, the easier it gets.
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Everything takes practice.
Mm. So it's not giving in to your thoughts, is it? It's not giving in to the negative thoughts and letting
Yeah,
them
not giving
fade
into the
away.
negative thoughts. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Unnecessary negative thoughts.
Yeah.
Um,
So are there any sort of tips that you would give someone who is struggling with that kind of negative thinking at the moment? Obviously, there's still I think we're just, there's so much going on, isn't there, still, and lots of people sort of going back into sort of that transition period, and I think, it can sort of play havoc with your thoughts. So I mean, visualizations is sort of one you mentioned. Is there any sort of other tips or any strategies that
Well,
you use?
what really helps is, I mean, when if you can listen to, there are a lot of podcasts on the power of the mind and power of the thoughts. I find them very helpful because sometimes I also need a bit of a reminder.
Mm,
So I tend to tune into those talks and podcasts. Um, Also reading uplifting books, also helps.
yeah.
And of course, um, surrounding yourself or socializing with positive thinking people
Mm,
makes a difference as well.
yes. Yeah. That's why I have you as a friend, Lena. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And that is one of the reasons also why I wrote this book, which you mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
Reflections. Um, it's because um, it's also how you look at a situation and a problem that can make a difference.
Yes. Yeah. Very, very true.
So I basically wrote this book to I used to do sort of like a monthly mini blog for
That's right.
clients because I have clients outside of the UK. So to keep in touch with them, I used to do like a little mini blog. First, I started with a little inspirational quote once a month. Then I kind of like added a few of my words to it. And as time went on, one sentence became two sentences, became three paragraphs. you know. So then, I would sort of always get feedback from at least one person, if say, God, this really helped me. I really needed to read this. It's really helped to put things into perspective. Those are the kind of feedback I used to get. So then, years later, because I started this blog long time ago, um,
Mm,
and it was only about 2 years ago, I decided, well, why don't I just compile some of them into a book, um, so other people can have access to it.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, because it gives you just a different perspective on on situations and problems that we face in life, to help you
Mm,
to just look at it differently from a more positive perspective.
yeah.
And it's also the words we use and the conversations we have with ourselves can also make that difference. um, because if you say you have a problem, then it just makes it sound like, when you say you have a problem, you don't know whether you can find a solution to it.
Yeah.
But if you look as a problem as a challenge,
Yes. Yeah.
then you get more motivated to work towards it.
Yes. Yeah. That's so
But
true.
when you say it's a problem, it kind of drags you down. When you say it's a challenge, in a way, it kind of lifts you up because
Mm,
we're more inclined to want to work through a challenge.
yeah. It's a different word, isn't it? It just makes you feel a
Yeah,
bit more.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think language makes a massive difference. I know this book it's been so
mhm,
helpful during lockdown. I sort of found it again. I remember like one of my jobs during lockdown was decluttering the house, and that your book popped up, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna read that again. But it's all about timing, isn't it? I read
yeah,
it and it really kind of resonated with me once again because I'd bought it
mm,
a couple of years ago from you. But yeah, it sort of jumped out at me, and sometimes you just need to hear or read something again,
yes, yeah,
remind yourself. Because I think
yeah,
one
because we
thing,
constantly, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, it's like sometimes you know these things, but we just need constant reminders, don't we, sometimes, because we just get into bad habits quite easily.
Yeah, yeah. And the self-talk is can be the worst, because with our self-talk, the thoughts are usually quite negative.
Yes, yeah, yeah, that's very, very true. We've talked a lot about that on these lives.
Yeah, yeah,
It all comes back
yeah,
to the self-talk, doesn't it, really? Um,
yes,
but it kind of feeds each other, doesn't it? The self-talk and the power of thought, it all
yeah. Because
intertwine.
yeah, because it's thoughts, right? And then you have conversations with yourself, and
Mm,
then you start associating it with other things,
yes.
then you start imagining, you know. So if they're negative, you can see the kind of downward spiral it takes you on.
Mm, yes, it can
And
happen
that's
very
what
easily.
happens most of the time with silent conversations.
Mm, mm, that's so true.
And one other way you can help yourself, just going back to the question you brought up earlier,
Mm,
is um, to stop criticizing yourself, to start being good to yourself. Once you start being good to yourself, then it makes it easier.
yes, yeah. It all starts there, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Because when you're good to yourself, you're going to be more aware also of your thoughts,
Mm,
in a manner of speaking.
that's very true. Yes, I'm going to be bearing all of this in mind for the coming days. This is why I enjoy our conversations, Lena, and anyone watching this, because it's a good reminder of really what's going on when you're.
Yeah, yeah. And I came across actually a nice saying the other day,
Mm,
and it says your mind. Let me see if I can remember. Your mind is a garden.
okay,
Your
yeah.
thoughts, your thoughts are your seeds. Um, you can plant flowers, or you can plant weeds.
Do you know that's a really good. I might write that up have that on the fridge.
Yeah,
That
and
sums it
sometimes
up.
it helps actually. Yeah, actually, that's another way you can help to remind yourself
Yeah.
to be positive.
Yes. Yeah. Quotes. Quotes on the fridge.
Yeah, yes, yes. Yeah, yeah. Positive quotes really make a difference.
Mm.
Um, it's a good way to start your day as well.
Yes. Yes. That's very
Because
true.
if you start your day with positive thoughts,
Mm.
then things around you seem to flow better. But
Mm.
if you start your day sort of angry and annoyed and irritated, when you leave the house, you will probably get even more angry, annoyed, and irritated, because you'll be, like I said, thought is energy. So
Mm.
people tap into that,
Yes. Yeah.
right? And they will start reacting,
Mm. Yeah.
because most people tend to react and not act. I mean, if you shout at someone, the average person would actually turn around and shout back.
Yes. Very true. They don't respond, they react. Which makes
Yeah,
a difference.
yeah,
Well, I think since we spoke last week, I was aware of how, I'd kind of leave the house feeling positive once I got up and I did a little bit of work, in the morning, and then I'd walk go past my news agents and read the headline news, and then almost kind of planted a seed for the day. So I've stopped doing that. Since our conversation, I thought, no, I'm not going to look in the news section. I'm going to be in my little happy bubble for a little bit longer.
yeah.
But that has made a difference this week already, just not, focusing on the media first thing in the morning. Obviously
Mm,
we need to
mm.
know what's going on in the news, but it's just not first thing in the morning. So I think just having that conversation with you has just, made me aware of what I would my actions, and not feeding them the mind
Yeah, yeah,
full of, or
yeah.
putting lots of weeds in the garden first thing. So,
mm, mm.
oh no, that's
Yeah, there's so many examples. I mean, I'm sure there are so many people are sort of at some level aware of this, but they don't pay that much attention. There are so many examples, and one I think people should really be aware of is when you're running late
mm,
somewhere. You know how we always keep saying, if you know you're going to be late somewhere, let's say you've got up late and you say, I'm never going to make it in time for the meeting, and or to work or whatever, and you keep saying, I'm running late, I'm not going to get there on time. You will never, you find you don't get there on time.
yeah,
So, like I said, I like to experiment, right? When I realized I was doing the same thing, and
yes,
when I suddenly developed this awareness about the power of the mind and thoughts, I thought, okay, I'm going to now reverse it. I'm going to say, I'm getting there on time. I'm getting there on time. I tell you, it really worked.
yeah, yeah. I love
I'd always get there, like, okay, I might get there a minute or two late, but that's inconsequential because no two people have the same timing. Everyone's watch or clock or what is either minute fast or minute slow. But I would, and sometimes I would think, wow, this is a real miracle because there's no way I would have been able to, I could get to that place in 15 minutes or, you know,
yes.
um, but that's the power of the mind. So
Mm,
I always say, I'm going to get there on time. I'm going to get there on time.
yes, yeah. You've reminded me of actually when I'm looking for a car parking space and I go into a car park and immediately it looks really busy. And it's that thing like, oh, I'm not going to find a space. I'm not going to find a space. But it is training your mind to go, there is one space for me. There's one space for me.
Yeah, yeah,
And I find actually when I do that, one does appear, but it really it's so hard to sort of again, it's overriding your thoughts, isn't it? And it does, like you say, it takes
mhm,
work to do that because you naturally want to think of the worst case scenario. So
yes,
I'm so
yeah,
glad you've reminded me of that and everyone else. I think that's really, it's just changing your dialogue and your thoughts so that you're
yeah.
again after what you want and not what you don't want. I'm going to get that right in a minute.
But these are such simple examples. Um, they're such simple examples, but they show you the power and the force of thought.
Mm, yes, yeah, yeah. How it can change your life experiences. It
Yeah,
really can.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I'm aware of time actually because we have been
yeah.
chatting happily for 45 minutes. So I'm just keen to find out if anyone, or thank you, Lena. Thank you for all your kind of words of wisdom and for some very, very healthy messages around setting intentions, visualization, watching what we say, focusing what we want and what we don't want. So I think there's so many nuggets and gems that you've talked about. Is there
Thank you.
anything else you want to add? You've got your
Oh gosh, is there anything
so
else
many
I want
things.
to add? I don't know. I think I've said it all. I think I've given the best quotes, which I should have left till the end. Well, maybe there is one more. Maybe I should tell you. It was who was it by? I mean, the power. Okay, yeah. I suppose my final words on the power of the thought is, it's not a new concept, or it's not. It's that kind of awareness goes back to, as far back as the fifth, sixth century BC, because ancient philosophers also used to quote, their quotes were also, a lot of their quotes had to do with the power of the mind.
Okay,
Um,
interesting.
and one of them, by this guy called Lao Tzu, ancient philosopher,
Mhm.
ancient Chinese philosopher who was also the founder of Taoism. And he was around sometime between the fourth and 6th century BC. And he actually said, watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny.
Wow, that's a great quote. It's amazing how it starts and how it finishes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Another
whatever you are, all stems from your thoughts.
another quote.
Bit scary sometimes because you think, you know, um, if you take it too literally, sometimes it can be quite upsetting.
Exactly. Well, I
But
think.
then that's another topic for another time.
Oh,
You know,
definitely.
why all our thoughts, no matter how disciplined we are with them, they don't necessarily manifest.
Okay.
So
Next.
that's a topic for another time because that has to do with our highest will and good. But sometimes what we want is not what we really need in life.
Okay. We'll hold that thought.
Yes.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Lina, for sharing and those wonderful quotes and just all your insights and and your kind of your own experience as well. Thank you for sharing those. I really, really appreciate that. And I'm sure they would have helped anyone as well watching. I think I'm going to be very aware of my language now, particularly language and thoughts and what I read. So yes, lots of awareness there now from our conversation. And so, if anyone wants to follow your work or join one of your classes, or it's your chance to tell everyone how to find you.
Well, the best thing to do is go onto my website, www.lightwaves-therapies.com. And at the bottom of the first page, there's also links to my Instagram and 2 Facebook pages. But if they want to communicate with me, they can do so through my website. And I've got information on all my therapies on it
Brilliant.
as well.
Okay, thank you. And reflections, that's available on Amazon.
Yeah, that is also mentioned on the website,
Mm,
and it is available on Amazon UK and also at Watkins Bookshop
yes, in London. Yeah. If
in
any,
London. Yes.
now we can go back into London. So,
I know. Yes, we can find the. That's one of the things I miss, being able to browse in bookshops.
you've reminded me of that. Thank you. I'm going to do that tomorrow. So, during my lunch hour. Okay, fabulous.
But
And yeah,
thank you very much. It's been enjoyable.
thank you. No,
I
thank you,
hope
Lina.
whoever listens to this finds some helpful tips there.
There's plenty there, plenty of gems and nuggets. So thank you very much. And I'm sure we'll have you back on, Lina. You don't get away that easily. There's plenty more conversations to be had. So, well, thank you. Thank you for your inspiration
Well,
and your thoughts, positive thoughts, and and wishing you a lovely evening.
yes, you too.
And
Thank you.
just about to
Thanks.
rain, so we've given a little bit of sunshine in the last hour. So anyway, thank you again, Lina, and thank you to everyone who's been
Thank you. Thank
watching.
you for having me on your show.
That's okay.
And you have a good evening.
Yes, and I look forward to seeing you at Yoga Nidra on Wednesday. So,
Yes, yes. See you then.
see you. Take care. Thanks, Lina. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Have a lovely evening.
Bye.